Every few decades, when the rain stops long enough and the water drops low enough, a village rises out of a lake in northern Wales. Stone walls break the surface first, then foundations, then the outlines of rooms where families once ate breakfast and argued and put children to bed, a chapel, a post office, the sealed concrete lid of a cemetery where the dead were never moved. It's not ancient. It's not Roman ruins or some medieval relic. The people who lived here had electricity. They had radios. Some of them are still alive. In 1965, the British government flooded this valley to give Liverpool a new water supply. 67 people lost their homes. 12 farms disappeared. A chapel built in 1820 held its final service and then went under. The cemetery was sealed with concrete because only 8 families agreed to dig up their dead. The rest are still down there. Every single Welsh MP opposed it. 125 local authorities formally objected. It didn't matter. English votes in Parliament carried the bill, and a man named Alderman Frank Kane pulled a lever and buried the place under 68 million tons of water. Then he told the crowd there was nothing Liverpool had done that they were ashamed of. This is the story of Capel Celyn, the town Britain chose to drown. Capel Celyn sat in the Tryweryn Valley, northwest of Bala, deep in the mountains of Merionethshire. It was one of the last Welsh-only speaking communities left in northern Wales. Every conversation, every sermon, every lesson in the village school happened in a language that had been spoken in this valley for centuries. The name itself is Welsh. Capel means chapel. Celyn means holly. The farms stretched across 800 acres of valley floor. Elizabeth Watkin Jones and her family ran the post office. The chapel had been rebuilt in 1892, and the same families had filled its pews for generations. And at the edge of the village sat a farmstead called Hafod Fadog that most people outside Wales have never heard of. In the 1600s and 1700s, Hafod Fadog served as a Quaker meeting house. On the hillside above the farm, worshippers gathered inside a circle of low stone walls for larger services. Beyond the house, there was a small burial ground. Many of the Quakers who met there eventually left for Pennsylvania, driven across an ocean by religious persecution, searching for the freedom to pray in peace. 300 years later, the place where they gathered would be sitting at the bottom of a man-made lake so that Liverpool could run its factories. The residents found out about the plan a few days before Christmas, 1955. There was no letter, no phone call, no delegation knocking on doors. They read it in the Welsh edition of the Liverpool Daily Post. A city across the border had decided their valley had one of the largest watersheds in Wales, and that it could be turned into a reservoir with a single dam. Liverpool Corporation didn't ask for permission. In January 1957, they introduced a private bill in Parliament. By pushing it through as an Act of Parliament, rather than routing it through Welsh planning authorities, they sidestepped the need for local consent entirely. No public inquiry, no negotiation. Just legislation that said Liverpool could take the valley and Wales had no legal power to stop them. The people of Capel Celyn fought back for 8 years. They formed the Capel Celyn Defence Committee, led by Dafydd Roberts and Elizabeth Watkin Jones. They took their case to newspapers, radio, and television across the country. Twice, in 1956, they marched through the streets of Liverpool itself, walking directly through the city that had voted to erase them. Liverpool councillors voted overwhelmingly to proceed. When a BBC reporter asked one protester why he was fighting so hard to save a village that wasn't, by any objective measure, the most important or beautiful community in Wales, the man gave a response that became one of the most quoted lines in the history of Welsh protest. He said his wife might not be the most important woman in Wales, or the most beautiful, but he loved her, and he certainly wouldn't drown her. Construction began in 1960. Bulldozers and hundreds of workers rolled into the valley. A firm of contractors had arrived before them, telling curious residents they were just testing the mineral content of the soil. That was a lie. They were checking whether the valley itself contained enough raw material to build the dam from within it. By early 1963, families were packing up and scattering. A boy named Tryweryn Evans named after the valley itself, later remembered the confusion of those final weeks. As a child, he kept wondering whether they would ever go back, whether the whole thing might have just been a bad dream. The school closed in July 1963. Martha Roberts, the teacher, locked the door behind her with 10 pupils left on the register. On September 28th, the chapel held its last service. The final wedding had taken place 2 weeks before that. After that Sunday morning, the doors closed and never opened again. Then the cemetery. Workers stripped every headstone. Gravel went down first, then concrete over the top. The families who chose not to move their dead had to accept that their loved ones would remain sealed beneath a reservoir, unreachable, for as long as the dam held. In February 1963, a group calling themselves Mudiad am Diffyn Cymru, the Movement for the Defence of Wales, detonated a bomb at a transformer on the dam construction site. 2 Plaid Cymru members had already tried to sabotage the power supply the year before. The movement would carry out several more bombings over the following 6 years. None of it changed anything. The dam was finished in August 1965. On October 21st, Liverpool Corporation held the official opening ceremony at the edge of their new reservoir. They had planned 45 minutes of speeches and celebration. It collapsed almost immediately. Plaid Cymru had organised a counter-demonstration that blocked every road leading to the site. Protesters physically stopped Liverpool officials from reaching the grandstand. 3 uniformed members of the Free Wales Army appeared publicly for the first time, led by their founder, Julian Caio Evans. The crowd charged down the embankment. Scuffles broke out with police. The ceremony was crushed into a few frantic minutes. Cain pulled his lever. The water rose. Capel Celyn disappeared. The reservoir, Llyn Celyn, stretches 2.5 miles long and a mile wide. It swallowed everything. The chapel, the school, the post office, the farms, the sealed cemetery, and the tiny railway halt that had served the village since December 1930. That station had a corrugated iron waiting shelter and a single oil lamp. About 40 passengers used it each week. The last train had called in January 1960. Part of the railway line now sits under the lake. During the droughts that followed in later decades, when the water dropped far enough, the village came back, walls and foundations surfacing, like something that refused to stay buried. A Welsh artist named Tim Davies visited the exposed reservoir bed during one of those dry summers and found a single, rusty 5-inch nail in the mud. He later cast 5,000 replicas of it in wax and laid them out as a floor piece. He called it Capel Celyn. A year after the reservoir opened, Gwynfor Evans won Plaid Cymru's first ever parliamentary seat. The party's vote share jumped from 3.1% to 5.2%. The push for Welsh devolution gained a momentum that wouldn't stop until Wales had its own government. Historians still debate how much of that traces back to Tryweryn. But the drowning forced a question that Wales had never been able to answer before. If every one of your elected representatives says no, and it happens anyway, what does your democracy actually mean? In 2005, 40 years late, Liverpool City Council issued a formal apology. Some in the nearby town of Bala accepted it. Others called it a useless political gesture. And somewhere near Aberystwyth, on the crumbling wall of a ruined stone cottage by the A487, 3 words have been spray-painted, scraped off, vandalised, and repainted again for over 60 years. A writer named Maik Stephens claimed he was the first to put them there, back in the 1960s. The original Welsh was grammatically incorrect. Somebody eventually fixed the spelling. The message never changed. Cofiwch Dryweryn. Remember Tryweryn,